What's going on, guys? It's fight season MMA, and today I have breaking news. The UFC is in talks, Israel Adesanya to return, not at the original date that we thought. I thought that it was going to be at UFC 312 in Perth, Australia, but now Israel Adesanya is returning at UFC Saudi Arabia for February 1st against Nassourdine Imavov. I think that's a great fight to be had. I am so excited to see Adesanya back in the sport. I am really excited to hopefully, keep him around, kind of get back to that active self that we all know he is. Nassourdine Imavov, on the other hand, is a great fighter, just beat Brendan Allen, has fought the likes of Sean Strickland as well, and truly is a great up-and-comer inside the middleweight division. I think that this is a very good possible number one contenders bout for each one of these fighters that they can do it in their own way, but I want to kind of break down this fight, kind of talk about the storylines going into this one, and truly give a very early prediction on Adesanya versus Imavov. If you guys enjoy the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. This is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications. That is the best way to help the channel grow each and every day. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video announcing Israel Adesanya's return. UFC Saudi Arabia on February 1st versus Mr. Nassourdine Imavov. Okay, jumping into the breaking news, Israel Adesanya will sign a contract and he will fight Nassourdine Imavov on February 1st in Saudi Arabia. Now, we all thought that this fight could have possibly been the co-main event of UFC 312, possibly could have even been the main event of UFC 312, but I think they're going to go up and switch this up a tiny bit to bring Adesanya to the Middle East to fight the Frenchman, being Nassourdine Imavov, and I'm super excited to see Adesanya back inside the octagon. Everyone loves Israel Adesanya. I know he's had some he might be on a losing streak, losing 3 of his last 4 fights. But even though if he's on a losing streak, he's still some of the fan favorite around the organization. Israel Adesanya has fought the who's inside that middleweight division. He's fought Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland, Paulo Costa, Robert Whitaker, so many more in that middleweight division, and guys who are retired. He's also fought the light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira. He's fought Jan Blachowicz. He's fought so many different individuals in that middleweight division, and truly he is one of the best fighters at middleweight currently. Now, on the other hand, Nassourdine Imavov is a good up-and-coming French fighter who just beat Brendan Allen at the co-main event of UFC Paris. Imavov has also beat individuals like Jared Cannonier. He beat Roman Dolidze. He had a very interesting fight with Chris Curtis, I think at UFC 289, and that was a very, very, very good fight for Imavov until he illegally kneed Curtis, if I could remember. But genuinely, Imavov is on a three-fight win streak. One of that was a no contest, and before that Chris Curtis fight, he lost in a main event to Sean Strickland in January of 2023. But if you look at Imavov's resume, he has beat really some good guys in the middleweight division, namely Cannonier and Brendan Allen, who are both really good fighters and prominent staples in the middleweight division. Adesanya, on the other hand, we all know has the resume. We all know who Adesanya is, and genuinely, he is one of the best fighters the middleweight division has ever seen inside the UFC. And how would these two fighters go in a fight with one another? Because as we all know, Adesanya is the pretty striker. He's kind of doing that same thing, but Imavov dabbles in that game as well. But I think the level thing that Imavov has on someone like Israel Adesanya is Imavov has a really good jiu-jitsu game, and that's something that he's going to be able to use time in and time out against Adesanya if he really will be able to steal rounds away from a very good and technical striker. Now, Imavov's wrestling does have some question marks behind it, and I think that is something that would really separate these two individuals, and that would be something that would make me clear-cut pick Imavov to win if he had a better wrestling game. But I think that this fight is really close. You look at Adesanya's really textbook striking in the form of stand-up, kick, move. He does a lot of unorthodox things, but if you look at a striker, he is the textbook definition of that. He's got a lot of different techniques. He doesn't like to go to the ground. He might not have knockout power in all of his shots, but Israel Adesanya knows how to stack fights up, and contender Izzy is a tiny bit different. He looked really good in that Dricus du Plessis fight, and I think he just got a little bit tired out by the pace that Dricus was putting upon him and trying to defeat that very awkward style of Dricus. But Imavov, on the other hand, hasn't been proven over 5 rounds, in my opinion. I know he lost to Strickland over 5 rounds. That was a very interesting fight. He beat Dolidze over 5 rounds, but I think that fight could have been finished like 2 or 3 times, and Herb Dean kept it going for whatever reason. Cannonier was a very bad stoppage where Cannonier kind of lost his balance, and Jason Herzog called it a little bit early. Brendan Allen was a 3-round co-main event decision, and I just think that Imavov still has a little bit more to prove inside the UFC when it comes to going all 5 rounds. So we take the staple in the UFC division, in middleweight division, in Israel Adesanya, put him up against a newcomer, and I think that this is the fight to make, considering that you don't want Imavov to rematch Strickland if he's not going to get the title shot, or whoever is going to, and I think that fight should be reserved for Kyle Berhayo. But Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov is a very good striking match between these two individuals, and I'm looking, and I do see a way that Nassourdine Imavov can get this done. I'm a massive Israel Adesanya fan. I'm a massive fan of his, considering that he's got great striking. He's done a very good job for himself inside the UFC. Has had one of the longest middleweight title reigns in history. But I see Imavov being able to possibly exploit some holes, especially on the ground with his jiu-jitsu. But that being said, I still do think that Israel Adesanya would be able to get the win here. I think that this would be a very good win for Adesanya. As we know, he's getting a little bit older. I think he needs to come back in himself. That was a very emotional fight with Dricus du Plessis that he had at UFC 305. And I think that if he can kind of take it, slow down a little bit, and realize that Imavov is a very good and talented fighter, take it, run with it, and go in there and put on a masterpiece of a show, I think he'd be propelled right back into that title picture. I think Nassourdine Imavov does have a very good chance, though, to win this fight. And I think that this is not a kind of one-sided decision by either way, considering that Imavov has a lot more question marks in this game that I can 100% see him exploiting of Israel Adesanya. Brendan Allen is a great grappler, and Nassourdine Imavov was able to stuff, reverse, and out-grapple Brendan Allen in that UFC Paris co-main event. And Adesanya struggled with someone like Dricus du Plessis. Now, Dricus and Brendan Allen are on different levels, but I do think that Imavov could pose some sort of threat if he would offensively wrestle from the start rather than transitioning from defense to offense like in that Allen fight. But Adesanya is a great fighter, and I do think that he has seen everything. He's fought the likes of Derek Brunson and Robert Whittaker, so I think he would be able to stop those takedowns and ultimately just prove to himself that he is one of the best fighters still in the organization, even though he has only beat Alex Pereira in his last 4 fights. I do think that Adesanya would go in there and win a decision against Nassourdine Imavov. I think these two guys are really resilient. I don't think that Adesanya has that knockout power to go out there and flatline Imavov. But, I think that this is a very close fight. I could 100% see Imavov winning, but if I had to pick right now, Israel Adesanya 5-round decision versus Nassourdine Imavov as the main event of UFC Saudi Arabia. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight System MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section about Israel Adesanya's return to the UFC octagon. Adesanya has been out for a very long time. If you negate his fight with Dricus du Plessis at UFC 305, he last fought prior to that at UFC 293, so 12 events, almost a full year out, and considering that we were spoiled with Israel Adesanya fighting almost every 3 or 4 months prior, I do think that it's a very, it's a very awkward thing to say, but Israel Adesanya going up against someone like Nassourdine Imavov is a very tough challenge and a very interesting challenge to say the least. Imavov is a very good fighter. He's got a lot of different things going in his game that he could use to exploit Adesanya, and genuinely, I am super excited to see these two throw down in the main event of UFC Saudi Arabia. I think Imavov has a great chance to win, but I just see more avenues for Adesanya to put on a striking clinic against someone who, yes, is great and up and coming, but Adesanya has fought the best of best. He's beat some good wrestlers and grapplers that could possibly be able to prepare him for Imavov taking him down, but he's also beat some really good strikers in the UFC like Alex Pereira and Robert Whittaker as well. But genuinely, I think Adesanya gets the 5-round decision win, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section of who you think would win on Adesanya versus Imavov. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications, just so you guys are always notified about UFC content releasing every single day. But without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.